Dark Horse. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. I hope everybody's having a great Comic-Con. I'm having an amazing Comic-Con. So I hope you guys have seen a lot of cool stuff. One announcement I want to make about some of the Dark Horse digital stuff that we're doing. There's an exclusive Spike comic, an 8-page story by Jane Espenson and Georges Genti. Yeah. That will be exclusively available online for free if you go into a comic book shop in August and request a code. If you go into a comic book shop and ask them for this, go to your local comic shop. You can look at Comic Book Locator online and find your local comic shop, and they'll give you something totally free to go get this. Sorry? Angel's not in this one. England? Oh, no, we're trying to work out what we can do internationally. But the stores that carry our comics in the UK and I believe Australia will have the codes if they order them from us. So talk to your store owners and make sure that they're requesting the codes, because they can get as many as they want just for asking, okay? So I hope you check that out. I hope you're looking forward to the comics. We're doing a new Dollhouse series. So we have a 5-issue Dollhouse series in July. In August, we're launching Angel and Faith. And then in September, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9 starting in San Francisco. So without further ado, I want to introduce the creator of Buffy, Serenity, Dollhouse, Dr. Horrible, Angel, so many great characters, and the director of the Avengers, Joss Whedon.
I'm shameless. Some of you already know this. And my need for approbation is limitless. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys for everything, as always. As usual, I have very little to say that Scott hasn't already said about the fact that we're bringing out the new books, Angel and Faith, who are a wacky team. They're cops, they don't get along, but then they learn from each other. That's what they say. Different kind of thing. And then, of course, Buffy Season 9. Which some of you may know, I started writing at the end of Buffy Season 8. Because I was so excited to get Buffy back to the Buffy from the show, the Buffy who's living a life that we can all relate to. I know that many of you have been generals in mystical wars and had sex that created universes, but I think we could maybe get to more universal stuff than that, and that's what we're trying to do in Buffy Season 9. I'm really excited about it and grateful, as always, to Scott and Sierra and all the people at Dark Horse who keep this stuff going. The Serenity comics, the Dollhouse comics, comics based on a laundry list I made recently. These universes are not throwaways. They're stuff that we care about so much. And the fact that we get to continue them at a place where we know we're going to get extraordinary artists, great editors, and enormous support is just terrific. So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty much all that's going on with me. What's up with you guys? What's going on with you guys?
Firefly addiction hurts!
Firefly hurts?
Firefly addiction!
Oh yes, Firefly addiction. You know, there are groups. You know, what they'll get you on Babylon 5 for a while. And then eventually, you can rejoin society. I believe that there are microphones set up, and I think the best way for us to handle this little session is for you guys to ask me what you want to know about, and for me to tell you that I'm not allowed to tell you. Let's get the process started. I see people lining up. Is there more than one mic? Oh, wow. You're all here. The lights are very bright. The lights are very bright, and sometimes I think that you are my imaginary friends. Sometimes my imaginary friends interrupt me. Why would they do that? I love you and I am your boss. So, is there just a one mic? Okay, so I don't have to point all over the room. Fire away. That was her question. Okay. No, I'm kidding.
The Blu-ray for the original Buffy movie was just announced. Were we going to be getting an extremely snarky writer commentary?
Snappy, snarky, it's a fine line. No, actually, I didn't even know about it. They didn't call me. They had a DVD party and I wasn't invited. Yes, feel sorry for the man who has everybody cherry plucked. If I can get your affirmation and your sympathy, what a day.
Hello. Okay. If Buffy and Angel had continued on TV through season 8 and after the fall, would you have done them the exact same way as in the comics?
There's no way you could have done on TV, certainly for the money that we were being given to make the show, what we did. And also, you couldn't have had an entire episode of them having sex. Well, maybe. That could never happen except in season 6. But the point of season 8 for me was, hey, it's a comic and we can do these things that we could not have done on television. And I think that ultimately became sort of a little bit of an albatross for us. And the kind you've already killed, not the cute kind that's like River. And because people were more interested in her life than they were in the fact that we could draw bigger things. So, that's why I'm excited about season 9 again, because having discovered that I can do it differently than the television show, I've discovered that I don't really want to.
Mr. Whedon, I love you so much and everything you do. I wanted to ask you, Astonishing X-Men was what originally got me into comics. It was amazing. And I was wondering if you are ever planning on doing that again or any other big name comic title.
I don't think any of my work upcoming has anything to do with big comic titles. I'm thinking. I have actually no plans at this time to wrestle with a big title. I would like to, but I have a feeling after making this movie, maybe not so much, just from sheer exhaustion. The X-Men, of all the titles, of all the books I could have written for, was really the grail. There are definitely things that I would love to do, and Brian Hitch and I always go, we should do some Spider-Man. And I'm like, that's great. What can we do that hasn't been done? Let's not do Spider-Man. Although I am going to do a Spider-Man reboot movie in a year. It's going to be Justin Bieber and Elle Fanning. I think it's going to be really, really bad.
Hi, Joss. I'm a big fan of that beautiful brain. And
the beautiful and very visible brain.
I was wondering whether you wrote Buffy with like a big end in mind, sort of the end of her life, or you just worked on a season-to-season basis as you sort of told the story of her life.
Well, every season was designed for us to be canceled. Oddly enough, something I didn't prepare for was Firefly. Weird. But it is an uncertain life, and so every season we wanted to go out with just enough so that we could say, if we never come back, we have a sense of closure. That's why we never did cliffhangers, because we were never sure. In fact, the first time I did a cliffhanger was season 4 of Angel, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, it was season 3 was the first time, and then I came back and was like, oh, the first episode is so much easier to write now. Our first episodes were almost always our weakest, because we sort of closed everything out. So it didn't have to be big, like the last episode of season 4. The dream was really just a coda and not a giant climax, but it always had to be enough.
What did did you see in Lila and Wes that made you realize how amazing and perfect they were for each other? And do you ever intend for them to fall in love, or do you think it just kind of happened?
I heard everything in that question except the people's names.
Lila and Wes.
Oh, Lila and Wes. Well, let's see. They hate each other. They agree on nothing. They're diametrically opposed, and they're both super sexy. I don't know what made me think we should get them together. Yeah, that they had quite the chemistry. You know, when you get people who can't stand each other in bed together, fun ensues.
Hi, now that you own the rights for the Angel now, with the Angel and Faith comics, will we see characters like Illyria or Connor show up?
Yes. All of the Buffy and Angelverse characters are under one roof now. And that's you know, and I do want to thank the guys at IDW for shepherding Angel for so long and doing a wonderful job with it. But at the end of the day, it makes life easier and better to have them all in each other's worlds. And the best part will be taking people from Angel's world and putting them in Buffy's in a way that we never have before, and vice versa. The books will start out separately. They do all sort of, the go is the end of season 8. Of Buffy, but we're going to keep them in their own worlds a little bit, just so the books can establish their own identities, and it doesn't just become this giant, you have to buy everything crossover fest, which I feel is unfair. But then, very soon after that, we're going to get really silly. And, you know, if I had the time, there would be about 5 other people who'd have their own standalone books. But as it is, we're going to be trying to work out some mini-series and one-shots and making sure that everybody gets in everybody else's soup, because there's so many great dynamics there. And I just need more Illyria.
Hi, Joss. I really enjoyed Frey popping up in season 8. Was it difficult to bring the two worlds together?
That was actually some of the easiest and most fun stuff that I got to do. Those two worlds, being so separate but so connected, made writing that just pretty much pure joy. And having Carl back to do it, because it was Frey, was really lovely. You know, obviously there's some reconciling issues. Basically all of the Buffy comic has been, you know, affected by Frey, which I wrote thinking, there's no way this will ever affect Buffy 200 years in the future, so I'm totally safe. But now that I've resolved the fact that, yes, they are connected universes, bringing them together was, you know, just a delight. Mostly because I got to have Frey say, "Summer, you drive like a spaz." Sorry?
Hi. In the Buffy and Angel universe.
You said Buffalo. You said Buffalo, didn't you?
I was wondering if there were any characters who you either regret killing off or introducing.
Yes, I regret introducing Tara. No. You know, I don't have a lot of regret. The fact of the matter is, we all know that sometimes I have killed beloved characters, because I believe that is something that people in those kinds of stories need to go through. And we all know that there are some characters I introduced that did not stick to the wall quite as successfully as others. But I don't live with a lot of regret. Every character that we had, we got to milk for some really interesting stories. And if people didn't like them, we either found a way to make them like them or played that up as part of their persona. We got to ride the surf of people's, the fans' involvement. And I really I'm not big with regret. It's not on my schedule.
bug ship?
Yes, eventually we will discover where he got his insect dirigible. And, and he's going to be, you know, a real factor in Buffy's life. You know, you got to put those two in a row, it's just too much fun. I can't say which room, but...
Josh, big fan. I really love the Firefly verse, and I was wondering if, you know, we saw the Shepherd's Tale and Float Out, are we going to have any more backgrounds from any other characters like Mal or Laura?
You know, I want to. I don't have anything on the drawing board right now because of busyness and craziness and laziness and dizziness. But yeah, we'd like to do some more backstory stuff, and I think at this point, you know, we have license at some point as well to move forward with these characters too. I think it's safe to say. It would be interesting to know what happens next. The Wash Clone Wars. Among my most popular works.
On your prequel.
I know you're a big X-Men fan, and that Kitty Pryde was kind of an inspiration. Yeah, Emma Frost.
Yes, I was going to say. Are you about to slam her? Because
no, and that Kitty Pryde was an inspiration for Buffy, and I wanted to know if you consciously drew from Rogue when you developed Echo on Dollhouse.
You know, they're connected. There was not... Echo was an attempt at something very different. Somebody with, you know, no support system or identity of any kind. And that really didn't come from the same place as Kitty and Buffy, except in the sense that I always write about helplessness and the gaining of strength and the building of identity. Echo was a more pure version of that. Buffy reflected Kitty in the way that they were both young and suddenly burdened with responsibility, but they both had the context of their lives. The whole point about Echo is that she had had that taken away from her. I don't actually know a lot of people like that. It was more of a stretch. It was almost kind of my robot fiction. I like your outfit too.
So throughout Angel, there's references to the powers that be, and it doesn't happen in Buffy. And I was wondering if that was an idea that you didn't have when you were first writing Buffy? Or,
You know, everybody had some kind of, you know, controlling force out there that was supposed to be benign but didn't quite seem to get it done. On Angel, we defined them differently. But, you know, Buffy, there was always not just the Watchers Council, but the first, you know, people who had made the first Slayers, and sort of, there was always some new weird council of old men or women or beings or clouds or something that was out there that you would basically need as something to invoke or something to move the story along or something to rail against for not making things better. Something that would seem to be in opposition to the very dark forces that were, you know, obviously personified in Wolfram and Hart, but at the end of the day, really proved more than the evil ever did, that everything is just shades of gray, and that no matter who's out there, we do have to do this ourselves.
Would you ever bring Buffy to Broadway?
Yes!
You mean like take her to a show? I would. I can't say that I will, or that by the time I try to, anyone will want me to, but yeah, I think she belongs there. In the theater opposite where Dr. Horrible is.
Breaking our hearts by killing off fan favorites, Tara, Anya, Giles, Joyce. But on a scale of 1 to 10 for Buffy Season 9, how badly are you planning on smashing our hearts into the ground and pulverizing them?
like a drug. Season 9 is not designed around tragedy, but then life seldom is. It just happens. Do I plan to do something awful and break your hearts?
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you. But season 9 has some very edgy stuff in it, some very new stuff in it. But it is not built around darkness per se, except in the fact that, you know, Buffy is always trying to find out who she is, which can be complicated and sometimes dangerous and sticky and weird. But whether or not I'm going to do something appalling in season 9, I will not reveal, because that would take out the fun of your suffering. I wasn't going to, but now I am, because of him.
I just wanted to say my sister and I love your show. So I was curious, what is your reaction to the queer community's absolute love of your show? Because I know there's a big following in the queer community for your show.
Well, I'm against it. As we're making the Lord angry. You didn't think I was going to bring up Alien Resurrection, but I am. That Alien Resurrection, its sole virtue for me was when I was writing it, discovering, you know, the idea of Clone Ripley and Robo Winona, kind of coming to terms with the idea of being considered less than human, despite the fact that they were both, you know, powerful and beautiful. Thinking and internalizing that and feeling like an underclass of human being. And to me, I was like, this is a very powerful metaphor, in particular for the gay community, and for teenagers who are struggling with that. And ultimately, it's a metaphor for everybody who feels like an outsider. But that was my first thought. That was what made it interesting, and Buffy was basically sort of an extension of that kind of storytelling. I didn't actively go out with an agenda, but it absolutely means everything to me that the gay communities have embraced the shows, because they are for them as much or more than anyone else.
Obvious huge fan of your writing and of Firefly. Amazing. And I know we're all shaped by the stories of our youth, but do you have anything from your life experience as a child that has really contributed to the richness in your writing?
I actually managed to get through my childhood without having a life experience. I stayed in my room, and my life experience was reading Frank Herbert. Does that count? Is that similar to life experience? I was afraid of most things, you know, I didn't have a terrible childhood or anything, but I don't really feel that I had a remarkable one either. You know, the things that you see: fear, helplessness, pain, loss. You know, these things are things I was struggling with. The sense of aloneness. These are, you know, very common issues with me, but they weren't based on spectacular events that I can recount to you in a David Copperfield-y way. I can just say that, yeah, you know, I was a little bit pathetic. Just a little bit. You know, not anymore though. I'm totally cool. Got beautiful hair. So, sorry, it's kind of a lame answer, but there it is. I really was kind of a shut-in.
Hey Josh, given the work that DC's been doing with their animated films, and a number of your actors have been doing voice parts for them, is there a Buffy Season 8 animated feature in our future?
How How much money do you have on you? I ain't again it. We spent a lot of time and noble effort trying to put a Buffy animated show on the air, and with zero success. It still baffles me to this day. I'm also waiting for somebody to call me and tell me it's time to make that Serenity sequel, but... But they won't. Sorry, that much love, I had to destroy it. So I think it lends itself to it. It's right. It's like when people say, should you make a Firefly musical? I'm like, no, that is a bad idea. That is like Cops who rock. But something like animated Buffy as a feature, as a straight to DVD, as a series, it makes perfect sense. Like a Buffy musical, it just makes sense. Should I say Serenity sequel again and make it all excited?
Hi Josh, thanks for coming out here. So I was in a literature class the other day, and we were asked to think of male feminist authors, and you were the first one that came to mind. My question is, why do you consistently include strong female characters in your writing?
Because they're awesome!
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Was it why do I write them?
Yes.
There is a video on YouTube that can help you with this question. Look up Equality Now, my name, and you should look up Equality Now anyway. But at the end of the day, I have many answers for it. They have to do with my mom, who's an extraordinary woman, a great feminist. They have to do with the people in my life. They have to do with a lot of different things, but I don't know. Because I'm not just writing strong female characters for other people. I have a desire to see them in our culture that was not met for most of my childhood, except occasionally by James Cameron. Cameron and Miyazaki, those are the guys who But I don't know why I think I'm a 14-year-old girl with superpowers. I don't look like one. But I can't get past it. In fact, the only trouble I've had with the Avengers is I'm like, where is the 14-year-old girl superpower? I'm very confused. Is it you, Robert Downey Jr.? Probably Clark Gregg.
Hey there, Josh. Thanks for coming. Considering you mentioned to J.J. Abrams last year how much you enjoyed the new Star Trek reboot, I was wondering if you would ever consider lending your amazing voice to those iconic characters in the comics, maybe for IDW or what have you.
I don't think so. I'm actually going to say this one because I think Star Trek, what makes Star Trek great is a little ephemeral and not something that I would be chasing because they are their own voices. And for me, the comics, it's harder for them to capture. And I've not read, there may be wonderful Star Trek comics and I'm not dissing on them, but for me, that's not something I'm attracted to because I'm interested in the way they're going to create the universe visually in a film or a TV show. I'll see every new incarnation of it, and I did love JJ's, but for the comics, if I was going to spend my time, it's extremely difficult. I would not want to wade into something with that much history and that much difference. I don't feel the payoff would be great. I'd rather work on something new or something that I've already done but in comic book form, because I seem to do that all the time.
Hi. Can we expect to see a Dr. Horrible 2 anytime soon?
The thing that you have to understand is yes. I'll just say this. I've worked on a number of songs. I got a demo from Jed Marissa of a song that actually Zach pitched that they wrote, and as soon as I heard it, just like when we did the first one, I just said I would respectfully like to withdraw my songs because it's so good.
Hi, Joss. Ben Edlund, will he be writing any of the new comics for season 9?
I have not approached Ben about this, but if I can get Ben in any of my houses at any point, I want Ben in my house. And an amazing singer. What? Yeah. No, actually, Ben is a guy that, there's no other way to put this, we hate. Because while he's pitching great ideas for Angel, he's drawing really amazing drawings and he's just leaving out on the table and then going into his office and playing guitar beautifully and singing. We're like, come on! Leave us something! That guy's crazy. He is actually crazy, but in a talent way.
Okay, Joss, my question is, on both Angel and Buffy, it seems the 7th episode seems to be the most significant that will foreshadow the rest of the season. Was that deliberate?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again, please?
Okay, in both Buffy and Angel, the 7th episode of each season seems to be the most deliberate, like that will foreshadow the rest of the season. For example, Lie to Me, conversations with dead people, Once More with Feeling. So was that a deliberate thing or just a coincidence?
It was based on the fact, usually, that the 7th episode would be the second one that I could direct. And so I would save all the goodies for myself. It's not kind of me, but there it is. Oh, there's more. Okay, I thought we were done. It's like, oh, that's it. I've given you all the knowledge I have. Go forth and.
Hi, Joss.
I'm not aware of that film.
First of all, I'm a huge fan. And I actually didn't have a question to ask you until you mentioned that you would love to write 5 standalone characters in their own comic arcs, and I was curious who they would be and what you would write if you had the time.
Well, if I knew what I would write, I would have written it. I'm not positive. Obviously, Willow has a journey to go through that is very much her own. As I mentioned, Illyria is near and dear to my heart. And, the Kennedy Riley book is going to be, I think, probably the most popular. And that's... there are a lot. It's hard. I'm sort of deeply in love with all of these characters, and I could give them all solos. There are a few that I'd like to see really highlighted. Some of them are dead, but how often has that stopped me?
Hi, Joss. I was wondering, in the future of the Buffyverse, will there be stories that make Dawn a stronger character?
That make Dawn a stronger character? Well, I'm not going to turn her into a superhero. She is going to be going on her own life's journey and having her own identity and not just being little sister anymore, which is going to become increasingly problematic for Buffy. I don't think of Dawn as a particularly weak character. I think we all know that she might have complained once or twice on the show. I always felt that she had more reason to complain than almost any teenager I knew, but wanted to play more variations of her character than I got to. I don't think of her as weak, though. I think she's very much, in a way, Buffy's greatest support system right now. And you'll be seeing that to an extent in season 9. But also, she's somebody who's just moving on with her life, which is problematic for Buffy, because it's not so easy for her. So I don't know if you'll consider her to be strong or not. It's not an agenda in the way that it was like with Cordelia, where we wanted to do the same thing we did with Wesley, take somebody that you thought of as bumbling or superficial and build them up into somebody extraordinary. Dawn is, for me, a touchstone of the non-extraordinary. That's why she and Xander are together, because they feel more like me. Dull. Whiny.
Hi. First, I just want to say that you're my hero, and I hope that I can be like you when I grow up. And I'm just wondering, you've gotten to explore these universes and tell stories in different mediums. What's the difference, like, in crafting these stories in comics versus television?
The difference is not great. It's just really about rhythm. It's about how much you can give, because the comics come out, obviously, just once a month. And you know, if you're telling a story over more than one issue, then it breaks down into acts. But having 4 months to complete one act instead of 1 hour is very different. And that's pretty much it. In terms of how they're structured, in terms of how much you need to put in a script, in terms of being sure of your collaborators and knowing they're going to give you, the footage, because your artist is your co-director. He's also your costumer, which, thank God for Georges Chanty, because he is one of the best costumers in comics. Somebody that doesn't get nearly enough credit for. Yes, we all know he's a wonderful dancer, but he is, he also brings an enormous amount of life to it. You're always going to have that sort of give and take in the relationship. You're always going to be trying to structure around emotion and around your act breaks. Which could be page breaks, they could be commercial breaks, they could be the end of an issue. You're always going to look for that little pop to keep people going. But you do have to sort of parcel things out differently. Apart from that, it really is very similar. Oh, also, your actors don't ever change their lines. But if you don't proofread the comics occasionally, they do. So you gotta proofread. Because I'm a terrible typist.
Are you going to make a Dr. Horrible comic book?
We have made some, we will make more. The beating heart of the Dr. Horrible comic book universe is scribe Zach Whedon, who has penned just all of them and done such a great job. And it's delightful because he just does it, and then I just get to read it. I mean, I'm in charge, and it's totally my vision. Super important, and I should have my own panel. But Zach has really carried that banner, and it's been such a delight for all of us.
Hello. With the Avengers, you're working with characters who are already iconic characters, and you're working with actors who have already been set up by 3 other directors. How much more challenging is that versus your own world that you've already created?
It's not that different. You come to it, you come to a relationship with an actor that you build, on the set and in pre-production. You take what parameters you have. In something like The Avengers, there's an enormous number of parameters. There are visual styles that have been worked out by different directors. There are the people who play the characters and the people who haven't. There's, all the reconciling of what's going on in the comic books and the movies, and what can you take from and what can you use and what do you need to avoid and how do you make them all work together. There are so many concerns, but at the end of the day, as soon as there's been an episode of a TV show, you're already in that world of, well, how do I resolve with what I already have? As soon as there are always going to be parameters based on who is my audience, what can I get away with, how long do I have to tell this story. There's going to be, you know, how many fights, musical numbers, bloody killings, whatever kind of thing it is you're making. You have these things stuck in when you're making genre that you must adhere to and you must respect. With the Avengers, it hasn't actually been as hard as I thought it would be. What I find is that these characters mesh through their differences really well. And what I also find is that these actors are having a great time playing against each other, and they are, as a troupe, actually a much better team than the Avengers are.
Hi, Joss. At one point I read that you were pursuing a miniseries called Ripper, and I was wondering if we'd be able to read more about Giles' origin story in the comics.
I have said this to some people that they are going to get a whiff of Ripper in the Angel and Faith book. This is the case. They are living at Giles' house, and they're going to be immersed in his world a little bit. I would still and always want to do an actual Ripper series or movie. I have broached it and been close to it so many times that I think if I ever mention it to Anthony Stewart Head again, he will put a knife in my throat. He is a lovely, gentle man. I think he will take up a big knife and deservedly kill me. So, unless we're actually rolling, when we actually have the cameras rolling, I will call him, say, come from your house, we're rolling. Oh, it's Ripper. No, really. Until then, I gotta play it cool because he's at this con and he could have a knife. I don't know.
Hi, Gus. I was just wondering, since good writers are always changing and evolving, if there's anything you've written for publication that you thought was awesome and then looked back on years later and wondered, did I really write that?
No, everything I've written is awesome. In a way, it's a burden. But, you know, it's actually, I recently pulled out a script, a film that I'd written about 20 years ago, one of the first of many to not sell, and it was fun. It was interesting. I liked it a lot, but I was like, this guy's young. I thought, you know, he showed promise. A for effort. There's, you know, I don't think there's, you know, and anything I've done that I'm really like, oh my God, and yes, I am including the Frankenstein episode in season 2 of Buffy. Because there was always a good intent, and at least something in there that made me smile and that was worthy. I've definitely, I have recently actually also read some letters I wrote to my mother from boarding school. Those are a little florid. A little self-indulgent. Definitely 16.
Hi. I wanted to ask you if you intentionally tried to put a lot of the character of Kitty Pryde in Kaylee, or did that just kind of happen after loving the character of Kitty Pryde so much?
Put the character of Kitty Pryde in whom?
Haley from Firefly?
I never even saw the connection. But then I often don't. I'm often unaware of my, let us call it, theft. No, you know, but now that you say it, oh yeah, okay. That's another original idea from Sweden. Could you have asked me that when we were alone? No, it was not deliberate, but I do see the connection now. Look, my pony did its trick again. I'm ready for my pony.
Hey Joss, first you're awesome. Second, would you I know you've done a lot of strong female characters, some who are lesbian, especially in the Buffyverse. Would you consider doing a strong gay male character that's, you know, out and proud or just, you know, visible?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I have actually wanted to do a book. I had a particular one in mind. It is not on the front burner, but I do think it's about time. I think at some point, you write enough lesbians, people realize, this is just a guy. This isn't feminism, this is Cinemax. I do think it's time for a little equal opportunity. Besides, who doesn't love cock? And then I remembered the children.
This is actually kind of similar. I was at the Jo Chan panel, and she was talking about a story that she pitched to you about Angel and Spike kind of hooking up a bit. And I was wondering what your initial thoughts about it were.
You know, I got to do what was supposed to be a 2-page story, but that's like the 6-word story. I can't do that. So we expanded to, I think, 3. And with Jo, and I had never done, you know, she had done the covers, and she's a miracle worker, and I adore her. But that was the first time I got to do narrative with her, but because it was a short piece, and this is something I'll do with artists and with actors, if it's a world where I'm already very comfortable and sort of know my way around, I asked her, what do you want? And she said, I'd like to have Caleb in it and some Yowie. And I'm like, okay, Caleb and Yowie, coming up. And I loved that book, that little 3 pages of naughtiness. It was a delight.
Hi Joss, I'm a big fan of the Dollhouse series, I was wondering if we're going to see any more Dollhouse comics coming.
Yes, we are. They've got some on deck already, and we'll see by their reception whether we can we keep going with that. Again, it's a question of time and manpower, because we all, you know, I have very strong feelings about that verse. It's been hard for me because there were so many things about the show that felt a little compromised, and then I sort of went, well, like, you know, I guess we didn't hit the mark because there were things that I wanted to talk about that Fox wasn't comfortable with. And then, so it's taken me a while to realize, first of all, that it has fans, and that I am one of them. That it meant a great deal to me, and I don't know that I always articulated it as successfully as I'd had in other shows, but when we did, it was as powerful as anything we've done. The scene between Amy Acker and Fran Kranz in the first episode of season 2 is about as happy as I ever need to be. Deafening silence. Or are we actually supposed to be done? Is that what's going on? Yes, they're telling me to wrap it up. So, just one more song, and then I am going to give you a gift that I don't give many people. I am going to not sing. So, I knew Dance of Joy was coming around. You know, I have great joy. I will express it by saying thank you. Thank you guys so much.